Pakistan has condemned as illegal India's move to abolish disputed Kashmir's special status, saying it will exercise all possible options to counter the move. The warning comes after the Indian government revoked Article 370 with immediate effect, stripping Kashmir of the special autonomy it has enjoyed for 7 decades.
India's Home Minister announced the presidential decree today in Parliament to loud protests from opposition lawmakers. Under Article 370, Kashmir was allowed its own constitution and flag. It had autonomy over all matters except defense, foreign affairs and communications.
Ahead of the announcement, the government imposed a security lockdown in the Indian-administered parts of Kashmir. Since midnight, all telecommunications have been shut down. Some politicians were also reportedly placed under house arrest.
Tens of thousands of Indian troops were deployed over the last 10 days. Meanwhile, Pakistan held an emergency meeting to discuss India's decision. And in a statement, Prime Minister Imran Khan said it has the potential to blow up into a regional crisis.
Kashmir is claimed in full by Pakistan and India, but ruled in parts by both. 2 of the 3 wars India and Pakistan have fought since their independence from British rule were over Kashmir.
And now for the latest on the situation, we're crossing to Neha Punya, and she's in New Delhi. So, Neha, what's the latest from today's parliamentary debates?
Parliament started discussing this issue in the early hours of Monday, Glenda and Steve, and that discussion is still ongoing. Like you said, when that proposal was read out by India's Interior Minister Amit Shah, there was a huge din from the opposition benches, and that kind of protest has continued through the day as well, with the opposition parties continuing to make ruckus at every step of the way. They've accused the government of bringing in this revocation in a high-handed manner by not consulting Parliament, by doing it at a time when there's no government in place in Jammu and Kashmir. The government there fell in 2018, and since then the state has been under the indirect rule of the government here in New Delhi. And there's also been criticism from those leaders who are not in Parliament, essentially the leaders from Kashmir, who've accused India of betraying Kashmir, because Article 370 is the basis on which they say Kashmir became a part of India post 1947, and they're saying with this move, they've essentially nullified Kashmir's accession to the Indian Union.
And Neha, how's been the reaction, or how are the people of India responding to the decision to scrap Article 370?
Opinion is sharply divided. Many supporters of the BJP, mostly right-wing Hindu groups, have celebrated this announcement. There were celebrations in different parts of the country by BJP supporters, but many others have sounded a note of caution and alarm. They're saying that this is not the right way to go, because you can't force people to become a part of a country. It has to come with their consent and will, and in this case that's not happened. Like you said, in Kashmir there's a complete clampdown, so many people in Kashmir don't even know this decision has been taken, and it's unclear when that suspension of internet services and phone services will be lifted. So currently very, very sharply divided as far as the opinion in India is concerned on this move by the Indian government.
All right, Maya, thanks for that. Neha Punya speaking to us from New Delhi.
India's government has made a significant move to take direct control of the state of Kashmir. It will try to revoke a part of the constitution which gives India's only Muslim-majority state the right to run its own affairs. Opposition parties have called this one of the darkest days for Indian democracy, as the government proposed to revoke the special status enjoyed by Jammu and Kashmir. Chaotic scenes in Parliament, as you can see. Home Minister Amit Shah making the announcement. Massive protests happening there. Article 370, which gives Jammu and Kashmir more autonomy than any other Indian state, is sensitive because it is the basis on which Kashmir joined India. Let's take you straight to Yogita Lamai, who joins us now from Delhi. Yogita, just tell us more about this. What is a stunning development, really?
Well, so this is an article, a part of the Indian Constitution. And, as you said, this was a promise made by India to Kashmir at the time of partition, because at that time, Kashmir was a princely state. Both India and Pakistan wanted it to be a part of, each country. And India said to Kashmir that, if Kashmir becomes a part of India, then it will have this special status. So it's an independence over most things except for defense, communications and external affairs. And that's essentially what has been done away with today by the government. They've moved to revoke that. Once the president signs it, it will come into effect. And really what's being questioned, and the outrage that you saw there, is because many people are saying this is unconstitutional. If a part of the Constitution has to be changed, then why was it not voted on by MPs?
So, Yogita, why is the government doing this?
Well, this was one of their big election promises. It's actually been on the ruling BJP's agenda for a very long time now. But it was one of the big election promises, in the 2019 polls that just went by. And many say, critics of the move to revoke this article say that this is part of the Hindu Nationalist Party's plan to change the demographics of India's only Muslim majority state.
What is the reaction likely to be in Kashmir itself?
Well, it's very hard to get any information out of Kashmir. If you see what's happened in the past few days, it's really unprecedented. Internet and phone services are completely cut off, very hard to reach anyone there. Last night, major politicians in the region were placed under house arrest. In the past week, tens of thousands of extra troops have been sent there. Section 144 is imposed, which basically means that more than 5 people cannot gather in one place at a time. So protests, public rallies, meetings cannot be held. And with people not being able to communicate with each other, it's very hard right now to find out what the reaction is like. But it's quite clear that the government was expecting protests. Every time Section 370 or anything about it has come up, there have been protests in Kashmir. So, you can be certain that there is anger simmering in many parts of the region, although it's not on display yet.
And briefly, Yogita, we've seen tension really escalating recently between India and Pakistan. What reaction have we had from Islamabad about this move?
Well, Islamabad has condemned this move. They've called it unconstitutional. You've even seen protests actually, in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir against this move. And that was, again, a reaction that's, possibly expected, because these are two countries that are fighting over the region. They both say they both stake claim to the whole of the region. So India trying to now tighten its grip over the part of Kashmir that its control is bound to be condemned by Pakistan.
Yeah, a very significant day in India. Yogita, thanks so much for joining us from Delhi. More on the story throughout the day.
India's Interior Minister has confirmed the government is revoking the special autonomous status of India-controlled Kashmir. The ruling Hindu Nationalist Party says it will scrap Article 370, which allowed the state of Jammu and Kashmir to make its own laws. The announcement comes after authorities suspended phone and internet access there and placed popular state leaders under house arrest. The disputed region is also claimed by Pakistan. The Indian government has also restricted public movement and closed schools in the main city of Srinagar. This comes a week after the federal government sent 10,000 additional troops to the majority Muslim region, citing a terrorist threat. Well, panic has gripped many local residents, some of whom fear a dramatic escalation of violence between rebels and federal forces. Okay, let's bring in DW's Nimisha Jaiswal, our correspondent in Delhi, for more. Good day, Nimisha. What does removing the special status for Indian-controlled Kashmir mean for the people living there?
Well, Brian, the possible consequences of the removal of Article 370 can be drastic and dramatic. There has been quite an outpouring of reactions coming in, but unfortunately, we are not hearing from the people of Kashmir directly because of the fact that there's been a complete communications and internet shutdown. But just overall, I will have to take you back to a bit of a quick history lesson in that when India and Pakistan were divided, the free sovereign states were given the option to either remain free, join India, join Pakistan. Now, this this is the root of the conflict between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. Both states claim that the state of Jammu and Kashmir belongs in its entirety to them. Now, this Article 370, which has been scrapped, the special law that has been scrapped, basically allowed certain freedoms to the people of Kashmir. It allowed a separation between the Indian state, and the Indian state could weigh in on communication, external affairs, and defense, but not on other matters as much. But now, they're not only scrapping this article, they're changing the status of the state within the country as well, so that even the leaders, the local leaders of the state, will have lesser powers, much lesser powers, not just as compared to before, but as compared to other local leaders of states across the country.
Okay, this change of status means a lot for Pakistan. Have we heard anything from the Pakistani government about this?
Well, so far there hasn't been a statement by the Pakistani government, but of course this is a developing news situation and this could come out at any moment now. But the people of Kashmir who have been able to respond, we have been hearing reports from the morning that state leaders have been in lockdown. And one interesting reaction from one prominent state leader, Mehbooba Mufti, who was the local chief minister last year, has been that this is going to have catastrophic consequences across the subcontinent. She has even gone as far as to say that the decision to join India there's a pushback, there's a backlash, because they made the wrong decision back when there was the time to make the decision. And she's saying that the people of Kashmir and their autonomy has strongly been clamped down. Pakistan will, of course, possibly agree with this sentiment, because this has been another contention coming in from Pakistan, that India has not allowed for the people of Kashmir to have enough of a say. And this scrapping of the article would potentially provide more fuel for Pakistan to make similar claims.
Namisha Jaiswal for us in Delhi with the latest. Namisha, thanks for now. We'll be getting back to you, I'm sure, throughout the day. For now, thanks very much.
Now, the government in India has scrapped the special status awarded to Kashmir. Article 370 of the Indian Constitution allowed the region to make its own laws and curbed non-residents for buying property. The Indian Home Minister believes the move will integrate India's only Muslim-majority region with the rest of the country. Now, telecommunication services in the state have been blocked, political leaders have been placed under house arrest, and thousands of Indian troops have been deployed to the area. For more on this story, we can bring in our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Doug, why is this happening now?
Well, a big reason, a big part of this is that the Hindu nationalist Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has weaponized and escalated an issue that many perhaps believe could not be any more weaponized than it's already been. Look, it's true that Kashmir has been one of the world's, if not the world's, most volatile geopolitical flashpoints for the past 7 decades since India's independence. It has been fought over. 2 out of the 3 wars between India and Pakistan were fought over Kashmir. And it has also been the focal point of a separatist insurgency since 1989 for the past 3 decades. But let's go back to recent months. Last February, you had a suicide bombing attack against a convoy of trucks carrying Indian paramilitary forces. At the time, you might remember, Narendra Modi was campaigning for his Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, basically, and he was campaigning on a pledge, basically, to revoke the special autonomy, the special status that Kashmir has enjoyed essentially since the early 50s. I think it's 1954. And he made it also very clear that Pakistan, he said this in the wake of that suicide bombing, he said Pakistan is going to pay a very heavy price. His rhetoric has been extremely belligerent. Who has he been appealing to? He's been appealing to the Hindu majority vote. He got a very resounding majority in parliament after this election. He was reelected. Appealing to a Hindu majority in a way that has really stoked all of the worst fears of a lot of the residents of the Kashmir region. There are no angels on either side of this conflict. There's a lot of blame to apportion on all sides. But the fact of the matter is what we're talking about today is the revocation of this special status. It's Article 370. Within that is embedded something called Article 35A. Not to get too detailed, but what does that do? It basically, it's called a permanent residency law, and it exempted outsiders, non-Kashmiris, mainly Hindus, the fear being, to come in and settle on land, to buy property, and essentially to change the demographics. That's what the critics now accuse Modi's agenda of being. He's not saying it explicitly, but change the demographics of the region in a way that will favor Hindus and basically change a region which is India's only majority Muslim state.
So what can we expect to see now?
What we can expect to see now is a lot more tension where that came from. First of all, the revocation of Article 370, as it's being done right now, it's by presidential order. It's supposed to be put before a constituent assembly of the state. The problem is India has not had a constituent assembly since 1957, has not existed. So there's going to be a lot of legal squabbling over whether or not it's enough to have a presidential order. Will this have to come before the state lawmakers within Kashmir state itself, which they say obviously they should have a say in this, in something that affects them so directly? At the end of the day right now, you're going to have already simmering tensions, is putting it mildly. You already have very simmering tensions among a new generation of Kashmiris who feel absolutely victimized, stigmatized, at times terrorized by tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Indian police who've streamed in and been deployed in this Indian-administered region of Kashmir. It's only going to get worse from there. They feel right now that the Indian state is doing this in flouting all legality and without consulting with the people of Kashmir themselves. So when I say watch this space, I'm not saying it to be pessimist, but right now, from where things stand, along this path, it's not going to help matters any in Kashmir. And I see it getting a lot trickier and a lot of challenges, maybe right to the Supreme Court.
Now we'll see what happens once Kashmiris start to react, once internet services and stuff get restored. Doug, thank you very much for that. Douglas Herbert there.
The Indian government says it has revoked the special status which gave the northern Kashmir region autonomy and allowed it to make its own laws. Both India and Pakistan claim the majority Muslim territory as their own.
The announcement comes hours after Indian authorities suspended telephone services in Kashmir and placed state leaders under house arrest. Thousands of Indian troops have been deployed to the region. Our own Arshad Zargar is in New Delhi. He's been on the ground reporting since the announcement was made this weekend. Arshad, this is a big deal. I know that we're focusing a lot on what's happened in the U.S. over the last 48 hours or so, but India and Pakistan have very often over the last 30 or 40 years come close to war. These are two nuclear-powered countries. Explain to our viewers why this area is so disputed.
Good morning, Rad. This is basically Kashmir issue is basically the core issue between India and Pakistan. There have been 3 wars between the two countries. This was the basis of this conflict started in 1947 when India and Pakistan got divided into 2 countries. Kashmir was a region which basically chose to join none of the 2 states. But then soon after certain developments, Kashmir acceded with India, and as a sort of a protection by India, this Article 370 of the Constitution came into being, which basically gave Kashmir its own constitution, its own lawmaking powers, and prevented non-Kashmiris from permanently settling in the state. So what has happened today is basically India has scrapped this Article 370, which basically means all those special powers, the special status of the people of Kashmir is gone. It also basically means that Kashmir technically has been integrated with India completely, which in a way dilutes its disputed status. Another order that was passed today was basically that Kashmir, which was a state among the 29 states of India, it has been bifurcated into 2 union territories. Union territory is something that comes directly under the control of the central government. So that's what's going to happen now with Kashmir. It has lost its statehood, and it has come under the direct control of the central government.
So this is more than just the scrapping of Article 370. It's more than just kind of like a, a legal thing. India has actually reinforced this by sending in troops, an awful lot of troops. Can you tell us what has transpired over the last few days there?
Yeah, actually, it all started about 10 days back when India sent about 10,000 paramilitary forces to Kashmir. And then in the next few days, another 25,000 troops were sent. So this basically, it all started with that. There are actually already about 700,000 troops already present there in Kashmir. So with this seemed like to be a normal thing for Kashmir until on Friday, the government announced that Amarnath Yatra, which is a Hindu holy pilgrimage to a cave in the Himalayas, that got suspended, and the government asked all non-Kashmiris and all tourists to leave Kashmir immediately. People grew suspicious. They sensed that perhaps the government of India is planning to scrap Article 370 and another article which is similar called 35A. So this all how it happened, and people grew suspicious. Finally we had restrictions on the movement of people. Since yesterday, phone lines were down, internet was snapped. So this is how it all unfolded.
All right, really important reporting there. Arshad Zargar, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
India has revoked Kashmir's constitutional status and violated its previous agreements by scrapping Article 370. The move has raised fears of further unrest in the disputed region. Article 370 of the Indian Constitution was formalized in 1947. It allowed India to rule Muslim-majority Kashmir until a UN-sanctioned referendum was held, which has never taken place. The article allows Kashmir to have its own administrative government and constitution, capable of making decisions for all matters except for defense, communications, and foreign affairs. Kashmir is India's only Muslim-majority region. Now that Kashmir's status has been repealed, people from the rest of India will have the right to acquire property in the region and settle there permanently. Kashmiris fear this will lead to a demographic transformation of the region, from majority Muslim to majority Hindu. One of its key provisions is Article 35A. As Kashmir is disputed, the article ensured that Indians outside the state would not be able to permanently settle, buy land, or hold local government jobs and secure educational scholarships. Indian authorities have put Kashmir under security lockdown, keeping thousands of people inside their homes and unable to communicate with the outside world. New Delhi has also put top Kashmiri politicians under house arrest. The move is likely to increase tensions with Pakistan, which has claims to Kashmir and demands that India give the Kashmiri people the right to self-determination.
Our top story, the Indian government has scrapped constitutional provisions giving special status to Indian-administered Kashmir. Home Minister Amit Shah's announcement comes as the region is under lockdown, with all communication lines now suspended. Let's take a closer look at the law that granted autonomy to this disputed region. Well, we're talking now about Article 370. Article 370 allowed Indian-administered Kashmir to make its own laws, except in finance, defense, foreign affairs, and communications. That means the residents of the state live under different laws from the rest of the country in matters such as property ownership and citizenship. The government also plans to split up the state. Indian-administered Kashmir, which includes Hindu-majority Jammu, will be directly run from New Delhi, but will have a local assembly. Ladakh, which is made up of Buddhists and Shia Muslims, will also be a union territory, but it will not have its own assembly. Well, as we mentioned, Indian-administered Kashmir is now in a state of lockdown. Thousands of additional troops have been deployed and public gatherings are being severely restricted. Phone and internet links have been cut, and in an unusual move, pro-India politicians in Kashmir, they're also under house arrest. The government has asked all Hindu pilgrims and tourists to leave the area, warning of possible attacks by armed groups. There's also been a spike in shelling at the line of control. Now, that separates India and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Pakistan on Saturday accused India of using banned cluster munitions, an allegation the Indian army denies. Let's talk now to Ajay Shukla. He's a defense analyst. He joins us from Delhi. Mr. Shukla, welcome back to Al Jazeera. This is such a complicated picture. What does it mean?
Well, essentially, we have the ruling party in India, which is a Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, that has, as part of its electoral promises, said that it will remove the special status that Muslim-majority Kashmir state, which is actually called Jammu and Kashmir, enjoys within the Indian provision through this article called Article 370 that was struck down today. The Bharatiya Janata Party says that this article is discriminatory. It was the basis of the accession of Jammu and Kashmir state to the Indian Union in 1947, at a time when all states had the choice of whether to join India or Pakistan. Jammu and Kashmir joined India on the condition that these three areas that you talked about, foreign affairs, currency and communications, and defense, are going to be handled by the central government in Delhi, whereas all other provisions, all other aspects of governance would be handled by the government in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the BJP has today struck down that provision. It said in its electoral manifesto as well that it would do so. Nobody ever thought that they would actually get around to doing it so soon. But they placed Kashmir under a security lockdown. They're making sure nobody comes out onto the streets and protests. Otherwise, there could be very bloody protests. And they have not just struck down the provision of 370, but they have actually dismantled the state of Jammu and Kashmir as it existed in the Indian Constitution. It now consists of union territories which are centrally governed. Ladakh is one, and Jammu and Kashmir will be one. So that is a sort of a radical new provision which many people are saying will require a constitutional amendment. The BJP doesn't think so. We'll have to see what happens in the days ahead.
OK, who's behind this and why?
Well, this is a straightforward pandering to the Hindu majority electorate in India. The BJP, or the Hindu Nationalist Party that I spoke about, came to power in elections in May this year with an enhanced majority based on promises that it would remove these special provisions, which they say pandered to the Muslims of India. So there is a clear political polarization here, with the ruling party trying to pander to its Hindu vote bank and anything that it sees as anti-Muslim, whether the action that it has taken against Kashmir today or any action that it takes against Pakistan, meets with heavy approval from the Hindu vote bank. So for the government, this has been a step that it has promised and has now delivered on. We'll just have to see whether the Indian courts, whether the Indian legal system, and whether the Indian legislature, since it's a constitutional amendment, it will have to be passed by a two-thirds majority in parliament, whether all these people line up behind the BJP calculating that their benefits lie with the Hindu vote bank or not.
Is it legal? And if it's not legal, where would the challenges against that end up?
Just repeat that, Peter.
Is this legal as far as we can tell because of the constitutional relationship between the federal government in New Delhi and the state governments? And if somebody decided to challenge, where would that challenge come from? And might it, I guess, end up in the Supreme Court?
Well, the challenge, first of all, would come from interest groups in Kashmir. As you mentioned earlier in the program, the whole of Kashmir has been practically locked up, including the pro-Indian politicians. So Kashmir is now on one side, including the secessionists, the nationalists, the unionists. Everybody is outraged at this step that has been taken. So the first legal challenge will come from Kashmir itself, for sure. At the same time, there are many civil society groups that believe this is an extremely unwise step, that Article 370, which has now been scrapped, actually constituted a bridge between the state of Jammu and Kashmir and the Indian Union, and doing away with it now opens the doors for an open Palestine-type independence struggle within Kashmir. So there will be many interest groups in India as well, which will be mounting legal challenges. And the political opposition, which has many illustrious lawyers amongst them, will also be mounting legal challenges as well. it can be expected that these will be heard by a constitution bench of the Indian Supreme Court, but everybody will be waiting to see which way that ruling goes.
We've seen Indian states being split or bifurcated along these lines before. I guess in some senses, if you go back to the 70s, that's kind of how we got Bangladesh as well. That's a different discussion, granted. But when states like this get treated in this way within the context of Indian politics, some people do very well because they're in the bit of the state that pays allegiance to the state capital that's already industrialized, that makes money. Other people do less well. So if you apply that to Indian-administered Kashmir, you're going to make a difficult situation much worse, potentially much more combustible, perhaps.
Oh, without question. The Kashmiri people, since the days of the Mughal rulers in the 16th and 17th century, have historically nurtured a profound distrust of New Delhi, which they believe has always tried to exploit it, has tried to impose its will on it. That has continued over the centuries. It exists even today. And this step, which actually amounts to going back on a promise based on which Kashmir seceded to the Indian Union in 1947, will only get the Kashmiris to believe that they were right in distrusting Delhi all these years, and that their future actually lay better with Pakistan, ludicrous though that may seem to some. But as a Muslim majority province that is now being sort of feeling betrayed in its condition for accession to the Indian Union, that's absolutely the best way of making a bad situation even worse, as you put it. As you sort of rightly brought out, states have been changed before, their boundaries redrawn, but that has been done constitutionally with the consultation of the state, with the free will of the state, in accordance with Article 3 of the Indian Constitution. This is now just being rammed through. This is being bulldozed onto the Kashmiri people, and it's not going to go down well, to put it extremely mildly.
Mr. Shukla, you unpacked that complex situation for us really well. Thank you so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera out of our bureau in New Delhi. Good to talk to you, sir.
Thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe.